So you get a little bit deeper with your questions, and what you're orienting to is kind of the sort of the how or the specific chunks of it. Who in this room knows how to do something really well? Anything? What? So, we got two. All right. Somebody make a note of that. We have two people that know how to do something. Yes. Maya, what do you know how to do well?
I can photograph well and I program well.
Okay. So you know how to photograph well, right? So she's told me this. There's no process words at all. So I would say, all right, let's explore that thing of photography. What is it that...
Talk about programming is better.
Okay, programming is better, so you know how to do that really well.
Yeah.
What convinces you that you know how to do it well?
I can get the task very quickly.
And how do you do that? How do you get the task quickly? How do you do it?
I speak to the user, understand what he
I
wants.
speak to the user to understand, right?
What he needs to be done.
What they need to have done,
Yes.
right? And once you've spoken to them, right, you understand that now we're already rolling with process words. We've elicited at least the lead-in is auditory, so then we could just continue with it. What happens after you've spoken to them?
I write it down.
Okay, so you write it down, so you're holding the pencil and you actually write and see the words.
I write it down as way I understood it.
Okay, and well, let me ask you, what convinces you that you've understood what they've said?
I know their business.
You know their business, and what is the convincer of that? How do you know that you know someone's needs when they speak to you?
Okay, when I speak to the user and he explains me what needs to be done, I ask him questions all the time when I don't understand
All right,
something.
so that's 4, I believe, auditory in a row. So you understand that something that starts out as an unspecified word like think or know or understand, you simply use your language to get more and more specific down to the behavioral kinds of aspects or the how-to or what's actually going on in it. And then I'll give you the finer chunks of how they represent it. They speak on the phone, they take notes, and this is going to give you high-quality, specific VAK information that you can actually match. Right? Okie dokie. Now, we have said that rapport, we understand that it has value in relationship and communications of all time, of all kinds, that it's a major frame around all communications. And we were saying that one way that you can affirm that you have rapport is to lead someone and see if they follow, right? So we're going to do a little exercise in that just so you can have some practice in doing that. And this is, again, is something you'll continue to practice during the course of your training here. So Ellen, just out of your conversation that you and Joe were having, it was kind of interesting because it seemed as if you may have some interesting auditory output. So come on down and let's explore it.
You qualify.
You qualify. So we're going to have a phone conversation, so we need our chairs back to back so we can have imaginary telephones.
Okay.
And you need this imaginary telephone. You can just drop that on the floor if you like, whichever. So we're going to have Ellen and I are going to have a phone conversation. I'll demonstrate the pattern. Your task is to calibrate to both of us and be aware of what you see and what you hear, right, and what the patterns are here. So Ellen, we'll just have a conversation about anything that's of interest to you. So what might that be?
Well, as I was talking about with Joe earlier, I like hockey.
Hockey.
Watching, not playing.
Okay, watching hockey.
Yes.
Oh, good. All right, so we're going to, let's say you're going to call me and tell me about, some game that you watched or whatever, and
Okay.
I'll respond.
Okay.
What? So that means you have to make the telephone. No, I guess it'd be my phone that's ringing, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so
Ring.
I have my cell phone set on Paco Bell's cannon, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hello.
Hey, this is Ellen.
Hey, Ellen, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really quite well. What's
Good,
happening?
Tom. Well, Burton and I just went to a hockey game last night, and I wanted to tell you about it.
Wow. I've never been to a hockey game, but I've always been interested in it.
Oh, you really should go sometime. And we've decided after this one that, the most fun thing is being up close and personal. We were on the glass last night, and
When you say you were on the glass, what does that mean when you're on the glass at a hockey match?
that means you are the front row.
Right up
on the ice.
Oh, you mean right by where they play and all the action's right there in front of you?
Yes, that is exactly right. So
wow, what is that?
Say again?
What is that like when that's...
It's like you're practically in the game. You're there, they're slamming up the glass against you.
So you can almost feel it when they slam into the glass and all this action is going on like that?
You feel it,
Wow.
you're present.
Wow, that must be amazing.
It was
My
cool.
gosh. You've been going to hockey games for quite some time, right?
No, not really. Just the last couple of years we've really been trying to go to a couple of a year.
Well, I know that you really enjoy it. What's the hook about it? What really about it that you enjoy?
Well, the players, they're awesome.
Well, wait, wow, really? What does awesome mean?
They're cute.
Oh, they're cute? Oh, okay. Well, when you say cute, what do you mean by cute?
I mean, they're athletic.
Athletic.
They're cute. They're
Wait,
physically
no.
attractive. They're talented.
Talented.
Yes.
All right.
All
So
sorts of things.
I'm curious, really.
Yes.
How do you determine that one player is more talented on the ice than another? I really would like to understand that well.
Well, take, for example, my ultimate all-time player, Patrick Waugh.
Say again? Excuse
Patrick
me.
Waugh, my ultimate all-time
Patrick
favorite player.
Waugh.
Patrick Waugh.
Okay.
Former goalie.
Former goalie.
Yes. Retired last year. I cried.
Oh, he retired and you cried. Okay. And what makes him so good?
He was just exceptional. He could read the situation. He would say when he knew he was on, the puck was the size of a beach ball.
What would something like that mean? That the puck was the size of a beach ball?
He could see it coming at him, like the size of a beach ball instead of the size of a puck. And so
I
if he
got
could
it.
catch it,
So when it
stop
would come at him, it'd be like he'd be right there on it, ready to move, ready to rock and roll, and he could respond to it.
Exactly.
Wow.
Respond to it, get it out of there.
Right. And so how does it compare to the other players, and what are they like? And
Well, other goalies, you mean, or other Avalanche players?
Well, either one. Either the goal. Let's compare him to the goalies first. How does it compare to the other
Well, I
goalies?
think all goalies are pretty good, or they wouldn't be there. But I think what makes them good is that they're confident.
It always
have to be.
occurred to me that something a goalie could do well, see if this is true, it's as if the puck slows down as it comes towards them.
Yes, I think that is an accurate thing to say.
Wow. Okay, that's great. Oh, look, my beans are boiling over, and it's time to add the pozole
all
for
right,
for the
okay.
tamales. So let me call you back tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Talk to you later.
All right, cool. All right, so let's see what we detected out here. If anything. Judy?
I had a hard time, I think I was trying to orient myself toward the visual, so she didn't come through with many visual words and not many auditory. There were kind of, the words were very hard to pigeonhole into, for me at least, whether she was auditory, visual.
Right.
And you kept trying to steer her and
Towards?
communication with words.
All right.
And also with, how does that sound? You were trying to get some very distinct things, and I had a hard time following the pattern.
Okay, so that's one observation, and I share that observation in terms of process words and rep systems words. They were kind of all over the map, and that wasn't something that I was dealing with at all, unless I was doing it out of my own awareness. Cheryl?
Well, see, and as a hockey fan myself, I was totally plugged into what you were saying. And wanted to interject and help out with that conversation. So I thought it was accurate.
All right, yeah, that's in terms of content, but I'm saying in terms of structure or pattern of what we did up here.
At first I saw kinesthetic when she was right by the glass, on the glass, and you pulled some more of that out of her,
Right.
what it felt like and everything. And then it kind of went to visual when she was talking about the hockey players, their attraction.
Right.
What they look like and everything. And then, I'm not sure.
Okay, great. Other observations? Yeah.
It's when she mentioned something about confidence, and you kind of, how do you know or how do you understand that there? So it's kind of a very neutral word, and then to see where she would go.
Okay.
With that.
Great. These are wonderful observations. That's really wonderful, particularly based on the kinds of sensory differentiations we've been making so far. But I'm going to demonstrate this again, and I'm going to give you an idea of what I'm up to so you can shift your filters. What I'd like you to do as I talk to the group for a minute is go, na 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 na. Okay. What I'm, seriously, so I don't want you to hear a thing. Get this on film, guys. What I'm going to be doing first is pacing the tempo and speed of her voice, then I'm going to slow her down. Then I'm going to speed her up again, then I'm going to slow her down. Okay? Okay, you can come back. Yes. Now I want to, it's a week later. You've maybe been to another game. And I'm home, and we were going to talk about it a little bit later, so you're going to give me a call. We're going to take a conversation where we were.
Okay.
All right. Oh, boop, 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 boom. Telephone. Hello.
Tom,
Hey, Ellen, how are you doing?
how are you?
I'm doing really quite well. Boy,
your beans boiled?
no, the tamales turned out really, really great. And it was great talking to you because I got really excited about hockey.
Good. Have you been to a game yet?
I've got some tickets for, what are they called, the Denver,
Avalanche.
the Avalanche, yeah, the Avalanche game sometime, I think it's 2 weeks from now. Are you going to be going to that game?
I don't have the slightest idea. Maybe
Well,
I can try to get some tickets and we can meet up.
That would really be great, but why
Why?
I'm going is I've got a date. I've got a date. I met a woman, and she's really special.
Where did you meet her?
Well, we met actually in the sporting goods store where I was picking up some trout fishing equipment.
Out fishing. So
Yeah.
she's a fisher woman.
Well, actually she is, but she told me she was interested in hockey. So I immediately thought about you so you could help me be familiar with the game.
Okay.
Because this is a really important date for me.
What's her name?
Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, her name is Ellen. I couldn't believe it. And then she likes hockey. Can you believe that? That just blew my mind. So tell me all I need to know about hockey so that I can impress her with, having some idea of what the game's all about.
Okay, well, fundamentally, 3 periods.
Right.
Okay, 20 minutes each.
20 minutes each, okay?
Trying to score.
Score.
Trying
Score is, it's a 1 point, it's not like a 3 point. Okay, 1 point thing.
1 point.
Right,
There's blue lines.
right,
There's
okay.
rules that you won't understand, so just don't even try.
Okay, so I won't even try to understand the rules. All right, so I'll let her explain the rules to me. All right, yeah, good. Anything else that you would advise as a spectator that I should be doing? I'm there with her?
Be rowdy.
Be rowdy, all right, I could manage that. Yeah, she looked to be a rowdy girl, so that could work out well. All right, but listen, hopefully, if you're there, I'd like her, to meet you and just so that maybe you could put in a good word for me. Would you be willing?
Oh, you bet.
Really?
You bet.
You say a couple of really nice
Should I make
things?
something up, or?
Well, Ellen, you just know me way too well. Yeah.
I'll talk about your sense of humor.
Right.
Your communication
Oh,
skills.
great.
Who couldn't be attracted to something like that?
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Ellen. Well, listen, I've got to go now. The dogs have just torn up the furniture again, so I'll talk to you in a week.
Okay.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. All right. So did you pick up on the pattern? Right? And really pretty explicit. And it's interesting because the pattern was there in pretty much the same form the first time around. And the second time, once you know what to calibrate to, then another threshold lowers and suddenly the pattern pops out and it becomes really quite obvious. So do you have an idea?
I have no idea.
Interesting. See, and this is generally the way it works when you're doing this kind of thing. That since it is communication directly to the unconscious, the conscious mind, has no idea what you're doing, and it shouldn't have any idea. So explicitly, what we actually did twice was you initially tended to have a relatively fast-paced tempo of your voice. So for about 3 or 4 minutes, I was matching that kind of tempo for tempo and really talking and really getting into it. And then I started slowing down. And then your responses started to slow, right, and matched my tempo for a period of time. And then I got excited again, and you got excited again, and then we broke for the camera, broke for the group here for a moment, and then we repeated the same pattern.
Wow.
So it was very nice. Excellent.
Interesting.
Great.
I had no idea.
Yeah, cool. All right, so and again, as I was saying, in a training situation, you're going to be parallel processing because now you know, in a sense, what your partner is going to be doing. Right? So my challenge to you is that when you're in Ellen's position in this exercise, that you go to beginner's mind and kind of forget everything you know and just be naturalistic in your response. All right? And we'll do 2 rounds of that. In other words, the instructions are, let me flip this here. Thank you, Ellen. We could unclip that mic and then boop, boop, boop. That ain't it. Let's go the other way. In this exercise, there's going to be 3 people. One person is going to be the person who's just sort of naturalistically in the flow of this. The second person is going to be the pacer and the leader, right? Matching voice tone, pitch, tempo, and volume. They're going to be discussing, any topic that the first person really enjoys, right? And the second person, the person in my position, is going to pace the tone, tempo, volume, and dynamics of A's voice for 3 to 5 minutes. And primarily, I want you to attend to the nonverbals, the tone, pitch, tempo, and volume. If you can pick up on some process words, see, hear, and feel words, match those too. But for sure, the tone, pitch, tempo, and volume. All right, and you want to do this for 3 to 5 minutes. What this tends to do is it opens up that doorway of a felt sense of connection. You kind of match rhythms, right? And once you've got that, what I want B to do is to begin gradually leading and noticing whether and how A follows the lead, what goes on. Now C, the third person, is going to be watching and listening for both body mirroring. I didn't ask you this question. When we were sitting here speaking, what were our bodies doing? Was there any matching? Were they similar in terms of their patterns or hand gestures or any of that? All right. Yeah. And that's often the case, particularly when you're in rapport, your body naturally goes into the same posture spontaneously. So the third person in this exercise, right, can give you feedback about any physiological mirroring that they've observed and voice pacing leading, right? And then afterwards have a discussion, a couple of minutes about the experience of the whole thing, and then you'll switch positions, and it'll be a round robin. I want every person of all 3 of you to get the opportunity to do this. So what have we got here? We've got, say, 5 minutes here, a couple of minutes for leading, right? and then a couple of minutes for feedback. So the whole thing, in terms of a time frame, is going to be 10 minutes per person. All right? 10 each, half an hour total. And C, the third person, is the timekeeper. So when you start, C checks a watch and says, okay, let's go. And after around 3 minutes, if your partner, 3 or 4 minutes, if they haven't already started, give them a signal, right, that the first person can't see, to begin leading. So they have an ample time to do that. All right? Find 2 partners, people you have not yet worked with, and let's rock and roll. We'll be back here as a whole group in 30 minutes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Commentary?
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think the three of us found it a little bit hard to distinguish if we were really leading and making a difference or not.
Right.
And I'm not sure what caused that. Scott and I seem to be kind of a mellow tone and pace.
Right.
And we didn't seem to really...
Not a lot of difference that you
Right.
could notice, or variation in the what was the discussion, subject matter about?
First,
We're talking about, well, there's the remodeling was here, right?
Right.
So we
Right.
talked about sailing,
sailing with her, and then
Okay.
with her education.
education, the home, yeah, the loan for your kids.
Okay.
Right.
So,
All right.
I tried to pick it up.
And-
I didn't really feel he went up.
Okay.
I could go down a little bit,
All right.
but.
So it's easier to kind of slow him down than it was to accelerate a bit. We had Ivan and his group was having just the opposite kind of issue. It was difficult to slow the individual down, right? So what would you do in a case like that, if that were really your outcome, is to really see if you could do it?
Well, we took a match and lit a little.
Yeah,
fire.
it's all right. It's like, now I'm about to try this. What might you do as a strategy?
Ask the person to slow down.
Yeah, could you slow down? You can always just ask. I can't understand what you're saying. Please slow down. Let's role play a little bit. Ricardo, you were talking about education and your kids.
right, the amount that it's going to take
You
for
like
primary education.
primary education, right? And you thought, what? That it was going to take a lot, or
Yeah, it was like $88,000 to get him through high school if we sent him to private education.
right? So that's relatively expensive. to
Relatively
send it to.
expensive, and then we have college to think about afterwards. So
Right.
we're wondering, okay, how do we approach this? Do we want to spend all the money
Right.
for primary education or focus it
Right.
in the high school years of
So
private
there's
school?
really quite a lot of things to consider there.
Correct.
Let me ask you how old your kids are.
3 and 7.
3 and 7? Are you kidding me? Wow! What is it like when the 7-year-old really cuts loose, you know? I mean, when 7-year-olds kind of get that, because I've had a daughter, and I remember when she was 7. So what's it like?
He goes nuts.
He goes nuts. What's it like when he goes nuts?
Actually, it can be quite frustrating because he doesn't do it in a very positive way.
Does he ever get that kind of bouncing off the walls
Yeah.
those days and
Yeah,
like that?
definitely.
And so what's it like for him when he's bouncing off the walls? What's he do?
He throws things, he gets all his toys out, he
Right.
kind of just...
Buzzes around the house,
buzzes around the
right,
house,
moving in and out.
yells and
Right,
screams and
exactly, right.
drives his brother crazy.
So, part of it is you can pace context, because different contexts have different implications in physiology. If you're having a relatively, abstract financial discussion about school and its cost, et cetera, it has a kind of a concomitant tone of voice that goes with it. But if you find out some information that's about the kids, kids, well, I remember kids, how old are yours? Then you can shift the context, maybe see if that works to accelerate it just a bit.
And the reason that you're doing that, when
Right.
you're shifting the pace, when you switch to his kids, is you just wanted to see if he's tracking, right?
Yeah, now, and that's one way to say it, to see if he's tracking. And what I'm really looking for, when you pace and lead, there's a number of applications of it. The most basic application of pacing and leading is to confirm that you have rapport. In other words, it's like saying to someone, okay, we're kind of connecting at the conscious level here. Let's see if we're really together unconsciously. Let's see if that loop is really here. And if they follow when you lead, it is unequivocal evidence that you were there and you've got it, right? So that's one application of leading after you've paced. But as we get into the training, we'll find other applications of that, particularly when you're doing individual change work or techniques, right? You'll be working sometimes with people that are in kind of a stuck state. It's an unpleasant state, and they want to move to a different state. So you can actually pace and lead to a different internal emotional state. The principles are the same. It's a little bit more complex, but it's the same principle. But you have to have this sort of basic understanding about how to pace physiology, breathing, voice tone, words, etc., to begin to move them from an unpleasant stuck state to one that's more resourceful and useful for them, right? But it's the same kind of principle. Other commentary about, just review what we've done starting yesterday, and we've continued today, the whole notion of sensory acuity and rapport primarily, ending up with pacing and leading. Ken?
I find that I get so interested in what they're talking about that I forget what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right, and we, in NLP, we refer to this as the seduction of the content, right? And it can happen. It can happen. It's like you just get into it so much you forget, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do, right? So one of the things that you'll learn in this training really well is how to, in a sense, be in two places at once, right? That you'll learn a kind of internal multitasking that is really profound. In other words, you'll be able to track on somebody's content, what they're saying, what's important to them, and their sort of cognitive map of the world, and simultaneously what's going on for them in other areas of their world. Right, exactly, yeah, exactly. They're all over the place. So that you're not missing anything. But it does take a kind of split attention. What that means, in a sense, is that your unconscious mind is waking up because you're beginning now to utilize perceptual skills that for most people are totally unconscious. So it's not losing anything, you're actually adding something to your behavioral repertoire. You're still able to track on content, be interested, empathetic, enthused, whatever, about what they're saying. But at the same time, you're linked to them in different ways. Right?
That would make sense because I've heard people, and I've had it happen to myself, where you're talking to someone, and then for a few seconds here and there, you think about other things that are important to you, but you still track the conversation.
Exactly.
So this is just a different form of that. Then.
Right, exactly right. It's a different form that's much richer, kind of expanded, right? And really, in the world of NLP, it's limitless. The more you practice, right, the better that you become at the whole thing. Yeah, Oliver.
One thing I see there too is that instead of spacing off about something else that you're worried about, your whole focus is on communicating with that person. So
Exactly.
Being even more respectful
Right.
of that person.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Maya yesterday, or this morning, I think, about concentration and focus. If you're constantly focused on this, what tends to happen is it exhausts you. If your commitment is to the communication, right, that's your primary outcome and the direction that communication is going, then you can relax in that frame. Anything can arise, and you're just receptive to the whole thing because you have, in a sense, nothing to defend about your map of the world, right? And nothing to resist in the other's map of the world. And there's just this internal sense of, kind of a letting go. And, really, for those of you who've done some athletic, like, some of the basketball states I'm sure you've gotten into, or martial arts states, that state of flow, state of really being present in the moment, that's one of the sort of side benefits of NLP. Other questions or commentaries? Sensory acuity, VAK, pacing and leading. I was just thinking about this, I think one of my favorite pacing and leading stories has to do with the Beatles, who are the best band ever. And it was in the really early days, and they just decided to move to Ringo Starr and let Peter Best, no relation, go his separate way, right? So that was the first concert after they changed to Ringo for a drummer. And they showed up in the concert hall, and they were setting up, and they're at the stage, and they're sitting there, and Ringo, it's his first night with the boys, and he's sitting there, and it's this huge auditorium full of people, and the people start stomping their feet and chanting, Peter, 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 right? So Ringo, what he does is he gets his sticks, right, and he starts keeping time with them, right? Just exactly with them. And they kind of get into it, but they're chanting Peter. He keeps going, boom, 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 boom. And at a certain point, when he's really synchronized, he goes boom, 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 and just goes into this 5-minute incredible drum riff. Just blew everybody away, and then comes back to boom, 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 and they start going Ringo, Ringo. It was awesome. I mean, talk about pacing and leading, non-verbally, you know. It's just wonderful. Yeah. Okay, I think on that note, we're going to switch gears a little bit here, but first we'll take a break. Remember, our target with the stones today, I believe, is 6. Is that correct? All right. So if you,
10. At the end of the day,
at the end, was it 10? Yes. All right. So
end of the day.
end of the day. You don't have to do it now, but by the end of the day, we want half of the day. All right. We're going to take a. All righty. We've been investing a lot of time and energy and learning experience about what happens in the outside world, using our sensory acuity, giving us kind of doorways into another person's map of the world. And we've done a brief exploration on internal awareness. Yesterday when we did the incongruency exploration, you remember that? And I want to just sort of clear up if there's any misconception about this word congruency. Any emotional state can be congruent, right? Congruence isn't some abstract state that you just spontaneously feel. It's generally associated with some emotional state. That could be happiness, curiosity, relaxation. Any of those states can be.
Also sad?
Or sadness, absolutely. You could be congruently angry, curious, any emotional state, if it's a, quote, pure state. In other words, it's not a mixed state, there's no internal conflict to that state, it's not kind of oscillating or bouncing around. That is a congruent state.
So it's like normal?
Say again?
Is it like a normal one for the person? How do you know it's congruent? Is it normal, the one that the person is constantly in?
Depends on the person, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some people tend to be very incongruent, right? These are people who, you know, kind of are two places at once all the time, a little bit scattered, and you have a sense, when you're around them, you have a sense that they're what we used to refer to as high-maintenance relationships.
Doesn't walk the talk.
Exactly. So there's a mismatch between maybe what they say and what they do, or well, on the one hand, I'm feeling this, but on the other hand, I feel this, and no. So there's that kind of bouncing around of states that, for some people, that is their normal state, right? For most of us, pure states are a little bit unique. We've all felt them, but most of us haven't had a lot of practice in stabilizing them, right? We kind of feel sometimes like, particularly the good ones, happen to us by accident, right? Oh, God, I was so happy yesterday. It was wonderful, and da-da-da. And then the phone rang, and this happened, that happened, and circumstances took me away from this state. But what we'll discover is that you're absolutely at choice about what goes on inside, right? In the same way that you're at choice about how you perceive the external world. So what we're going to do is amplify our exploration of the inner world for a moment, right? And what I'd like you to begin to do to initiate this exploration is think about a very pleasant memory, something that you did or you experienced in the recent past, the last month or so, that was really fun, kind of pleasurable for you. And I want you to really go like fully into the memory, the experience of it, all right? And I want you to be aware of how you're having the experience. In other words, what is your map of this memory in terms of how your body feels when you recall the memory? What are the feelings inside? Be aware of any internal auditory, any sounds. This could be ambient sounds, like for me, I like to go back to a particular black sand beach on Maui, on the east side, in a little town called Hana. And whenever I go back there, I can always hear the rustle of the palm trees and the trade winds and hear the surf. So there's auditory for me, and there's kinesthetic, and a great deal of visual. So I want you to be aware of how you represent this memory in all three systems. What's there for you visually, what's there for you auditorily, and what's there for you kinesthetically. All right, just just allow yourself to remember that well, and then come back here into the room. Joe, Ellen, come back here. Oh, there we go. Looked like you were having a good time wherever you guys were. I don't know. So here's my question to you. What was the nature of your experience in terms of your perceptual position? And by that, what I mean is, how many people here in the group were having that pleasurable experience in their memory as if it were happening again? In other words, as if they were seeing it out of their own eyes. Raise your hand if that's the way you experienced it. All right, so a little bit more than half the room, possibly 2/3. All right, how many people were having the experience, but experiencing it visually as if kind of like somebody put it on videotape, or you were watching kind of a movie of yourself? All right, raise your hand if it was kind of like you were watching a movie. So maybe a quarter of the folks. Are there any counterexamples to either one of those? Yeah, Victor.
Barely started out like that, but then I quickly thought I want to be in the experience, so I changed.
Great, so it's kind of like, all right, so a couple of folks started out, they saw themselves in the pleasurable experience, and they went, it looks good, but I don't feel it, so I got to get back
I
in.
did reverse.
You did, and how did you do yours?
I saw everything, and then I kind of stepped back
popped
and saw
out?
myself
Great.
from the back.
Okay, great. So she did the reverse of it, first started out in the experience, and then kind of popped out and saw herself from the back over there having the experience, right? Mm-hmm. Interesting. So there are different strategies of doing this. Let's try a totally different experience. Let's try a mildly unpleasant experience, right? Something in the last month or two that happened that wasn't not very pleasurable. Wound up in frustration, hurt feelings, bad state of some kind, but a relatively mild one, all right? And I want you to allow yourself to remember that. And again, I want you to index the representation that you make. In other words, the feelings you're having in your body, any ambient sounds, right? Your visual awareness of it. And particularly as this experience comes up, the way it normally does, what perceptual position are you occupying? Are you seeing it through your own eyes as if it were happening again? Or do you have a sense of being kind of out of the image itself and seeing yourself over there having the experience? So discover the answers to all of those questions. All right, then you can remember that, let the experience go, come back into the room, and let me ask, again, of the whole group, how many people were looking out of their own eyes as if it were the whole thing were happening again just as it did originally? Hands up for that one, and that looks to be about half of the group. How many people had the sense that they were sort of seeing themselves over there in that experience? Pretty cleanly about the other half. All right, any counterexamples or unique patterns, Matt?
I would constantly jump into my body and out. Or if there was a part of the experience that I really didn't care for, I would go out. And then, okay, well, this isn't as bad, so I'd go in. Be like, oh, and I would keep on doing that.
Very interesting strategy, and it reveals a lot, right? So what he's saying is that in this experience, right, if it got a little bit intense and it really wasn't a lot of fun, he'd pop out, right?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be as.
So the intensity decreased when you were looking at yourself over there having the experience. It was as if the you over there was having the bad time.
Yeah, and then it'd be like, okay, well, it's not as bad, so in.
Right.
I don't care for that part. Yeah.
Right.
So
it's kind of a dance with the experience.
Exactly.
Based
keeping pretty much a constant comfort level.
Right. So he had a pre-established comfort threshold,
Exactly.
And when it crossed that threshold, he has a spontaneous strategy to do what we call in NLP dissociate, right? To dissociate from the experience, see himself in it. It's called dissociation. It's also referred to as third position. Third position. First position is experiencing it as if it were happening again. Seeing out of your own eyes, hearing with your own ears, feeling what was happening then. That's first position, being in your body, having the experience. All right? Now, for those of you who had the experience again from first position, seeing out of your own eyes, etc., were the feelings pretty much, not exactly, but pretty much the same as the original event, right?
Right.
That's the nature of it. Now, what I'd like you to do, let's stay just for fun with the unpleasant memory. Whatever way you did it, I want you to reverse it, right? So if you were there as if it were happening to you, I want you to pop out and see yourself over there. If you were seeing yourself over there, I want you to step in, all right? So just reverse however you were doing it in terms of perceptual positions.
I couldn't pull up either. I was just like black.
Blank.
Feelings of unpleasantness, but I couldn't get my pictures back.
Where'd the feelings, just out of curiosity, of unpleasantness come from?
Butterflies.
How did you allow yourself to have those? Just a suggestion? Feel bad now?
Yeah, just that I was in the same place, but I couldn't see any pictures in my mind
How did you know you were in the same place?
because I was thinking about it, I guess.
Okay, and when you say thinking about it, what was the process of thinking that you were going through? How were you thinking about it?
I was just kind of reviewing the situation.
All right, so you hear the word. First we have an unspecified word. I was thinking about it. I asked her, what was the nature of that? And she says, well, I reviewed. So she uses a visual word, right? And yet she says, well, but I don't have any, it wasn't like a Disney epic or anything. I didn't see any big bright pictures, right? But there was a sense of reviewing it. So that was how you were thinking about it, is that you were reviewing it, right? How do you know you reviewed most of the experience rather than just an instant of it? Well, check it out. Think about just the first 2 seconds of the experience and then think about maybe 2 minutes or so of the experience. What's different about the way you review that?
It's less intense, I guess, with the shorter version.
Okay, so it's back to feeling, all right? So again, we're information gathering here just by virtue of the process words that she's using, which are unconscious choices. My suspicion is that obviously the visualization is there, and yet it's out of awareness, right? And often this is the case with folks. They don't have any real clear imagery or whatever, but they have the emotional response to something. But that something that they're having it to is out of their awareness. How about the pleasurable experience?
That was very clear.
Very clear.
Being there.
All right. Let's explore this a bit further. Take a neutral experience, just some ho-hum thing, washing your hair, having breakfast. And what's that like? Can you visualize that? Is that?
I can, and that's more like a movie.
Okay, more like a movie. And then let's take a mildly, just a little bit of an upset. Can you visualize that?
That's kind of like a movie too.
Okay, and then a real kind of upsetting experience.
That makes my heart start.
Right, I got it. But what happens to the visualization?
It's harder for me to see.
That's not a bad strategy either, is it? Does that make sense as a strategy? Right? Who wants to look at that crap? Right? But it's interesting. What she's saying here is that this strategy is unique. It's useful in the sense that you don't have to be consciously aware of this unpleasantness visually. And yet, how is she aware of it? Kinesthetically. Still got the feeling. So it took care of a little bit of it, not to have to look at it, but there's still something there, which is interesting because the pleasurable things, big, bright, nice colors, and wonderful. Cool. Right? So what I'm suggesting is there's always structure in subjective experience. Right? Now, let me ask you this. In the pleasurable experience, Ellen, were you in it as if it was happening to you again?
Yes.
All right. And in the unpleasant one, how about that? Were you in it as if it were happening again?
No.
Okay.
Other than the feelings.
You were, yeah. Yeah, does it make sense that she doesn't know?
Right.
Because she can't see it, right? All she knows is she has the response to it. All right. So let me suggest the following as an exploration. Take this unpleasant experience, whatever it is, right? And what I'd like you to allow your unconscious mind to do is to imagine somebody was there with a video, or one of these cameras here, and they'd filmed the whole thing, right? Maybe 2 or 3 minutes, this whole unpleasant thing. And they put it on a TV, right? And there's a little TV in front of you, but the TV is moving further and further away. So the TV is like out here, and the screen is about that big, right? And it's a black and white TV. So imagine watching whatever it was way out here. right? And see yourself over there. Here's the little Ellen, black and white, she's having whatever, right? Can you get a sense of that? You can see it, right? Because it's not uncomfortable, is it? What happens when the TV comes closer and closer and turns to color and it just kind of blanks out, right? If you're watching her, the response is over there. So not only is the visual representation in there, right? She's able to see it if, again, a comfort level is maintained. But this is a unique one because the strategy is a good one and it's useful, but it only deals with part of the whole thing. It only deals with the visual aspect of it. A little bit further in the training, we'll get to specific strategies for changing even the emotional response. One that you might want to explore right now is simply the notion of seeing it from third position. In other words, as an observer. And if it's really uncomfortable still, see it a little bit further away from you. So try that right now. Just see if you can get a sense of the visual. If you imagine it happening to an Ellen over there, younger in time, right? Can you get some of the visual back if you do that? Great. All righty. So I want us to continue this exploration. And what I want us to do is we're going to stay with the unpleasant one and reverse the way you had it. So if you're seeing with your own eyes, now see yourself over there. And if you're seeing yourself over there, reverse it and step into it. And notice what happens. All right, just have a full memory of that and then come back into the room and let's get a little feedback. So for those of you who were originally in the unpleasant experience, who saw it from a distance, seeing themselves over there, what happened?
It's easier.
It was easier in what way?
It feels less intense.
It feels less intense. The emotional intensity is reduced simply by making an adjustment of your perceptual position, right? That's pretty profound, yeah? Others of you in this category have similar responses? Ken?
More relaxed.
More relaxed about it?
Comical.
Yeah.
Comical,
I didn't
right?
feel any of the feelings that I felt when I was.
Right, so just to
It was-
neutralize,
I just saw it
Right.
happening, but no feeling.
right, none at all, so it neutralized them completely? All right, let me ask the other half of the group here, those who stepped into it, what happened to your emotional response? More intense, and as if it were happening again, right? This is pretty profound when you think about it, because much of your waking time, right, is spent exploring maps in your mind and making associations, having memories, one thing leading to another. And the way, not what you remember, but how you remember it, can have a really profound impact on your vitality and aliveness. If you have a habit, and that's all it is, of remembering unpleasant experiences fully associated as if they were happening again, what do you suppose happens to your blood pressure, your brain chemistry? Honestly, because there's enough brain science to support the fact that the body-mind can't tell the difference. If you represent it fully in your brain, your body has the same response as if a train were coming at you, right? And so it involves all your glandular secretions, brain chemicals, pulse rate, capillary dilation, and all of this. And this can be happening a couple hundred times a day, literally, right? And think about the wear and tear on the system, right? And the same goes on the flip side. Think about the richness of pleasant experiences, right? The things that were relaxing, invigorating, enlivening, that do completely different things to your body and your brain chemistry, right? And actually bring back aliveness to you if you experience them from the position of happening again through your own eyes or first position, right? If you tend to see yourself over there in pleasant experiences, just out of habit, guess who's having all the fun? It's you somewhere in the past or over there, right? And you're kind of stuck with this commentary position, right? So as a little exploration, what I'd like us to do is I want you to take a trip down memory lane, a little free association. You know, it's like, imagine that there's a river of time and it's flowing backwards. And you're in a little canoe and you're going backwards in time. And what I'd like you to do first is you're going to take a journey down two different rivers. The first one is the river of good times, we could call it. And I want you just to do, for a number of moments here, a little free association of pleasant times in your past. Whatever pleasant times means to you. These could be times that you spent with other people, or times that you were alone, times that you were in a special place, times that if you have pets that you are fond of, as I do, times you spent with your pets, and your intimate relationships, and just let one memory after another kind of drift up and experience it and move into another one. And I want you to be aware of precisely how, first position or third position, observer of yourself or within the experience, how you're having these experiences. So you're allowing yourself to have a lot of different pleasurable memories rise up, but there's a part of your mind that's also aware of how you're perceiving these. All right, and then, linked with that awareness, I want you to continue on the river, or you might choose to go back to some of those experiences, and any of those experiences in which you were dissociated, in which you saw yourself over there having the pleasant experience, I want you to step into it. I want you to just slide into the experience the way it was. And then you can move to the next one and experience it again from the inside. Continue backward along that little river of time into the past, with pleasurable memories rising up. But now, each one is one that you step into. And there may be a lot of pleasurable emotions that rise up with each experience, or one after the other. But just notice the internal state that you're in when you realize, wow, there's actually quite a few of those. And when I'm in them, it's as if I can recover the feelings of the entire experience. And as you do this little process, your brain is learning a new way to consistently represent or experience its maps, your maps of reality. Your life experience, so that you can really kind of recover that gift of experience that you've given to yourself, called fun experiences, good experiences, pleasurable. So just make a little internal commitment that you'll return from time to time. Kind of repeat this process until it is a choice for you to become automatic in this, that all your pleasurable experiences come back with everything that was there originally. So you have full access to all that rich emotional memory and those experiences. And then once you've made that promise, the canoe can reverse directions pretty rapidly and drift back towards the present moment. And you can find yourself back here in the Colorado Rockies in Winter Park with your eyes open. And a new skill, a new kind of habit that actually you can put to practice, you can put to use right now in a really profound way by doing the following. I said there were two branches of this river. The other branch of the river is called the branch of unpleasant memories, the branch of unpleasant experience. But now you have a new way to experience that branch of the river. I'd like you to allow yourself to do that. Just, it's not a big deal, and I'm not talking major traumatic events. I'm just talking the small unpleasantness stuff in life that come up from time to time. Allow some of those to come up, but use what you just learned. Right? But this time reverse it and have these memories from third position, as if you were observing yourself over there, seeing yourself as if it were in a videotape or on a stage at a distance. If you come across some past experience that was particularly intense, you can turn it to black and white and move it a little bit further away. So there's no need to deny yourself any of your own memory or to blank anything out. It can be experienced if you maintain third position or observer position and see yourself at a distance having that experience. And when you stay at that comfortable distance, you might even have some insight, some new awareness about some of these unpleasant situations. So maintaining that observer position there in the canoe going down the river of unpleasant experiences, just allow a number to continue to come up. And continue to practice staying third or observer position. And notice how easy it is. That in fact, the unpleasant emotions can become a signal for you to step out of the experience and see yourself over there. So even a little bit of the unpleasantness can be useful because it can be the signal for you to step out and see yourself over there at a distance. So that nothing is lost, you still have access to all the data, the information. It's not about amnesia. And yet you don't have to subject yourself to all that unpleasant emotion. And let your mind, your brain, learn this well. And the way that the brain learns well is through practice, through a number of times of repetition. There's a little thing that Charles Faulkner, who will be one of your trainers soon, he calls the elegance principle of the brain. When you offer the brain something that is more elegant, is more useful, more aesthetic, if you offer it as a choice, the brain will always choose it. So a strategy for experiencing unpleasant emotions in this way is a very aesthetical arrangement. So, again, make that internal promise that you'll return here from time to time to this river to review other unpleasant experiences in this way, to liberate your own life force by losing no information, but by simply occupying a different perceptual position or stance. And then you can return to the room and listen to the question that's coming towards me now. Yes?
It's good to review that incident over and over again?
I believe it is, yeah.
Just keep lightening it?
Yeah, I think that there's a saying in NLP that, you do anything 5, 6, 7 times, it's yours forever. Right? And the one thing that this is good for is developing habits. Everything you do, pretty much, is a habit. Right? Everything. Language, walking, driving a car, having unpleasant emotions, having pleasant emotions, cultural mannerisms, right? Whatever it is, these are habitual things that you've learned by doing them time and time and time again. So this little pattern, when I first learned it, I used it as kind of a meditation sort of thing. That I like to do it right after going to bed, right? Head hits the pillow, 10 minutes. And okay, I'm going to do unpleasant. And I just free associate and just practice this thing of going to third observer's position. Then the next night I go, okay, pleasurable, right? Step in, step in, step in. Great, yeah, wonderful night's sleep, right? And it really wasn't long. I mean, a week, 10 days, and I noticed a real significant but very subtle change in terms of vitality and aliveness, right? It's just I wasn't subjecting my body to all that stress and strain, and I had access to really rich emotional states, right? So it's a very simple thing on the surface. I mean, it's a simple shift in awareness, in your perceptual stance, but it has real profound implications in your vitality. So there are a number of hands going up here. Yeah, Maya first.
first I probably missed disassociation and observer. What is the difference?
None.
between-
They're
None. It's the same
different
thing.
words for the same.
Okay.
3 words that mean the same thing. Dissociation, observer, and third position
Okay.
mean the same thing.
Then a question is, I did this exercises before and I did it the first time and it was fine, but when I started going to the river, I felt actually very negative emotions, which was like additional one. It's like the shame. Like how did I put I see myself there in this situation. How did I put
Interesting.
myself there in this situation?
Right.
It's terrible.
Right.
And I felt really uncomfortable.
Right. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because this observer position is a unique one. One of the things that it does is it pulls you out of whatever emotion was there originally, but it can put you into other emotions, right? In Maya's case, it's like, God, I'm ashamed of myself. Right? That's awful. It was almost better just being in it. I'm going back. Right? I'd rather just feel like crap than guilty or shameful.
Seeing it.
Right. Here's a strategy. Use the same strategy. Take whatever experience that was, right? Pop out of it, right? And you kind of see yourself and say, oh my gosh, I'm really kind of ashamed of that. Then I want you to take one more step back. And now you're going to see 2 Mayas. The one that had the experience and the one that felt shameful about it. And you know more than both of them in a sense, right? Here's one that was being ashamed about something that happened to this one over there. What do you know that neither one of them do?
Well, it's not a big deal.
That it's not a big deal. So it's the same strategy, one more step.
I can see multiple Mayas.
Well, now, is it not the case that you do anyway, but you're simply not aware of it? Because sometimes you'll have an experience and then you'll think about it, oh God, I wish I hadn't done that, geez. I'm just ashamed of myself. But in fact, what you're doing is you're kind of internally thinking about it, so you kind of see yourself over there, then you feel shameful for it. This is simply a way to do what you already, or what you can already do well, and do it very specifically and methodically, right? And as we progress in this, later today, as a matter of fact, we're going to learn some techniques and strategies to begin to shift your experience of those, events themselves. Yeah?
Yes, Tom, I wanted to ask you, I can see the application for this for past experiences.
Right.
How about present experiences?
Give me an example of what you mean
Like,
by
for
that.
example, when your plane is 3 hours late.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you're sitting there with your blood pressure going through your head. and,
Right.
and you really want to disassociate
Right.
and say, I don't want all
Right.
these emotions coming up.
Right.
I want to really handle this
Right.
in a more constructive way and not have all of these physiological reactions.
Right.
Well, how would you handle
Then,
that?
let me postpone the answer for about maybe 20 minutes. We're going to be doing a technique that's addressed to specifically that. But it uses dissociation as a part of it.
Okay.
And then the choice of a new behavior in the same situation.
Okay.
Right, so we'll link those together. All right.
First of all, I thought that was an awesome exercise. Great.
It's cool.
As I get into these exercises, I start to think, well, what if I did this? And I disassociated myself, and then I thought, well, I could have done this in that situation, so I changed it, popped back in, and I feel good because I did the right thing instead of the wrong thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I changed. I mean, I don't know if I.
You guys, I give up, man. Usually it takes a group 3 or 4 days to get to where we're at right now. We're already anticipating precisely the next technique.
Okay.
All right? So Oliver just described it in a sense. You were giving us a great example of where it could be useful. So come on down front for a minute and we'll explore this. We're going to be walking around a little bit, so I think they'll hear us fine with a single mic.
Okay.
So here's what we're going to do. What I'd like you to imagine is for a moment the experience that you just described. It's the airport, the flight's late, whatever that event is. And I want you to be in it right here. So that's where that experience lives. I want you to go there and just notice what comes up. I mean, what happens when you step into that event? Go ahead and step in.
When is this plane going to get here? I have a flight that leaves here. I have to be in New York at 7 o'clock. I've got groups to conduct.
Right, all right.
My God.
Now, take a deep breath and take 3 steps back.
Okay.
All right? And we'll leave her over there.
Okay.
All right? There she is. And she's having that response.
Okay.
All right? You see her and you see the response that she's having.
Yeah.
All right, now it's your opportunity to become someone like Steven Spielberg, right? A great director.
Okay.
And she, the one that is in that experience, is going to learn something really useful. So the first thing I want you to imagine her doing is taking a seat on that chair.
Okay.
She's going to be an observer for a moment too.
Okay.
All right? And then I want you to, evaluate that whole kind of experience, and I want you to choose a model, someone that you know, either real or in fiction or in history, anybody, right? Real or imagined, that could handle that kind of a experience, right? Because they do happen. But who could handle that with just the way, the right resources, the way you'd like to be able to handle it? But
Okay.
she sitting on the chair can't.
Okay.
So who would that model be?
Hector Orsi.
All right. All right. Interesting. All right. Then what we're going to do is Hector is going to be her acting coach in a
Okay.
sense. We're going to begin to roll the video, but this time here comes in Hector, right?
Okay.
And he's going to go through the same event. So just observe him and watch what he does, specifically how he deals with it, how he responds to notes, finding out it's late and the whole thing. Just watch the whole movie, but this time Hector is the actor. So go ahead and evaluate his performance. Just watch him.
Okay.
All right, all the way through until it's. I want you to really kind of get a real sense of specifics, like the way he moves his body in space, the way he's breathing, right? You may even have a sense of kind of telepathically having an idea what he's thinking, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. As you evaluate that, does any part of you have any objection to being able to do something like that? Would that be okay? Would that be satisfactory in those kinds of situations?
Sure.
Wonderful. Then we want to thank Hector. Right?
Okay.
Let him go back to wherever he came from.
Okay.
All right. And then she, over here in the chair, was also observing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now what I want you to do is have her come back, but this time I want you to see yourself, to see her do exactly the same things that Hector did.
Okay.
So watch her.
Okay. You want me to go out and do it?
No, I want you to watch her first.
Oh, okay.
Because you're the director here, you need to evaluate her performance to make sure she's doing the same thing, same body posture, same breathing. If you could listen into her thoughts, she's having the same thoughts.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
All right, how's that?
Much better.
Right? Be willing to have that performance rather than the old one?
Yes.
Does any part of you have any objection to that?
No.
All right, then we're ready. So we've done all of this kind of tune-up, you see, from third or observer's position, right? Now we're going to acquire the skills by going back to first position. So what you're going to be doing here in a moment is taking a couple of steps forward, and you're going to step into the beginning of the movie, and you're going to go through exactly what she just demonstrated to you, but this time from the inside, actually doing it.
Okay.
All right, so when you're ready, just step in and
Okay.
let her teach you how to do that.
All right. Hi, listen, I really need your help. I'm on the plane at 5 and it's been delayed 3 hours and I need to be in New York at 7. Is there anything you could do to help me get there at that time?
Okay, great. Now, how does that feel?
It feels much calmer and much
Wonderful.
better and much
Great.
more constructive.
Great. Now, is there any tune-up that you'd like to give it, or is it totally satisfactory? Because this is where you wave the magic wand. You can have it be however. Check it out again.
I think it's pretty successful.
Pretty successful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. That's great. Now, the next step is one that we're going to do in just about all of our techniques in NLP. It's called a future pace.
Okay.
And what you do here is you imagine situations like that one that might occur in the future, because things like this do happen. So I want you to think about 2 or 3 that could happen in the next number of months, and I want you to imagine using this new behavior in those situations. So take a moment and actually do that. You might even want to imagine stepping into 2 or 3 different future experiences, different airports, different ticket agents, whatever, and really experience it as if it were happening.
Okay.
Work?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
You betcha. All right. Okie dokie. This little pattern is called a new behavior generator because it generates new behavior. And we're going to do this in groups of 3 here in a moment. I want us to track on the steps of this. Yes.
I was wondering about subconscious things that you're not aware of. What do you do about them that probably are bothering you, or they...
If they're bothering you, if...
No, they left an effect on your life, but you don't know.
If they're bothering you, they're not unconscious, right? If they're unconscious, they're not bothering you.
Is it possible that...
Is it possible that what?
That there's something unconscious that's not bothering you?
Absolutely. I have all kinds of unconscious stuff going on that's not bothering me. We all do. And the reason I know that that's happening is because I'm not bothered.
Because there's something happened in the past,
Right.
and because it was too bad an experience, you forgot about it, but
Right.
it is with you.
How do you know it's with you?
I don't know, because probably it limits you in a way.
How do you know it limits you?
I don't know.
Then how do you know you have it?
I'm just guessing.
Right. I would wait until you're sure. Right? And we'll get into some more explicit kinds of explorations of questions like that. I think I know where the question's going. It's a little bit different than what we're doing now, because this particular technique uses primarily the strategy of observer, third position, and first position to change behaviors, to generate new behaviors. Okay? So what it requires is that you have some situation or experience that you can recall that's unpleasant that you want to change, right? Rather than some unconscious thing that may be back in the past or may not. All right, so I want to index the steps of the behavior. Actually, let's back up a little bit. Let me ask you if there are any questions from the group about the demonstration itself. All right?
Actually, I do have one.
Brian.
So you actually use this technique for someone that's wanting to like lose weight, or someone that has anxiety, or someone that's feeling like, for example, with my patients, and they're having maybe fears or phobias, and then you actually put them in that fear. Is that further on?
It's going to depend on the situation. One of the things you'll notice about NLP techniques is that each technique primarily is oriented to a specific type of outcome. There's a technique that you'll be learning a little bit later on that's the fast phobia trauma procedure. Okay. That's for phobias, right? This one is for these new behaviors, right? How to respond to, the airline guy when he's giving you a hard time about canceled flights. You're learning a new behavior. Yeah.
So could you just basically, once again, the weight loss, like someone that overeats, and you put them in that position of overeating, and then you step back on the third party.
It can give you a lot of flexibility and built-in choices there. And there are other things that you can do with weight loss. This is, again, I want you to keep in mind, we're not even yet through day 2, right? And some things like overeating and other situations are complex and may need a lot of different inputs, right? So let me ask, again, questions about the demonstration itself rather than applications of it.
The role model can be,
right,
you said, even fictional.
Absolutely. Particularly with kids, love this stuff, boy. I had a kid that he had ADD and some organicity and some real kind of problems, and his role models when we were doing this were some superheroes he had in some video game that he played that had good qualities, right? And that was what he used to begin to make changes.
So would you use the same process with a child? Let's say I'm thinking about my 7-year-old.
Yep.
Who he and free.
Okay, let me postpone the answer to that till after we've done the exercise, then we'll do generalizations, okay? Again, I'm asking questions only about the demonstration up here. Yeah.
Real quick, do you have to use a role model, or if you know, hey, I should have done it this way, this is how I'm going to do it?
You can do either.
Okay.
If you know that you have that skill base, you can go ahead and use yourself and just see yourself over there. If it's something that is unusual, or you're not sure that you have those skills, or you'd like to even enhance them, then a role model is really great. Okay. And again, as Ricardo was suggesting here, these role models can be from, I've had one woman dealing with some really heavy-duty kind of thing, and her model was Jesus at the well, right? Wow, if I had those behaviors. And it was very, very, it was a great service for her to be able to connect like that. So there's no limit to the role models, except that the role model must be contextually specific, have the skills, the abilities, and the behaviors that you really want to have in that situation. All right? So as we go through it, the first step is you'll have your partner recall a situation where they felt unresourceful. All right? And, I'm just going to make the recommendation here, day 2, that we, keep this with relatively mild experiences. So if somebody has super heavy trauma at the age of 5 when the bulldozer ran over their cat and the polar bears ate their mother, we'll postpone that a little bit until we have some skills to really deal with those with super effectiveness. So, time you felt unresourceful, then you'll have them take a deep breath and physically This is something, a pattern, you get up out of the chair and you move. So first they're in the experience, then they take a step or two back from the experience and they evaluate the situation. They see themselves over there. And what they do is they sort of set themselves aside and they select a model that they could use in that situation. If they know they already have the skills, they could simply see themselves with the new skills or the desired skills, right? So just for structural form, let's all do it with a model first time through. So select a model, and then you see yourself doing the same behavior that the model just did, right? And then the next step is one that was brought up this morning about ecology. This is called an ecology check. And if you remember, I did this up front. I said, this is still as you're seeing, this is when you see yourself doing the new behavior. You ask, do you have any objections to doing this, to actually having this as a behavior? In this case, there were absolutely no objections, so we continued. If there had been objections, we cycle back to number 3. We select a different model, or we tune up the model until this visual evaluation from third position is totally satisfactory. Then we proceed to number 6, which is associate. And by associate, we mean go to first position. Right? And actually, in both of these, you're in third position, or observer. So once you've evaluated your performance with the new behaviors the model has, you step back into it, because what you're going to recover there are the kinesthetics, the emotions, the feelings, and the behavior. Right? And once you've run through the whole thing with the new behaviors, then it's another kind of ecology check. You want to evaluate the new response. Is it what you want, right? If it is, then you proceed to a future pace, which is simply imagining using this new skill in 2 or 3 future events that are similar. If, when you step in, you go, well, this is close, but it's not quite what I wanted, then you simply step back, choose a different model, or tune up the model. You cycle back up here quickly to number 3, and run it through again. Because when you're in observer position, you get a certain kind of information about it. But when you're in first position, you actually step in, you get a totally different kind of information to evaluate. Does it feel right? Is it me? Can I, am I capable? That kind of thing. So you're actually checking ecology twice in this thing. All right, so these are the steps. I want you to kind of overlay these on the demonstration. Any questions about the exercise itself? All right, we're going to do this in groups of 3, and time-wise, I'm guessing that let's target 15 minutes per person. I don't think it should take much longer than that. I think that should be ample time per person. And the observer, the third person in this group, he'll be the one that gives you feedback just on what happened, what he noticed, and how it went. And they'll also be the timekeeper, right, to keep you pretty precisely to 15 minutes per round. All right, questions about it before we start? Maya.
So if it's 3 people, so one recalls the situation, does he have to tell us what the situation is?
Yes.
So it will be like a show?
This can...
We vocalize it, and
yeah,
same thing.
I would recommend it absolutely that we do have access to content. With practice, when you really get good at this, this is a technique that can be done content-free.
In your head.
And when you're working with somebody, you don't really even need to know the content. But to do that, you really need to be able to calibrate and know exactly where you're at with the person. So this first couple of times through, I'm going to request that you work on something you're willing to share content with. You know, it's about the airport or screaming at my kids or whatever it is that you do. No, you just tell them. Actually, we had a great demonstration. Yeah, when you do this first step, but you can feel free to do it if you'd like to. Or you can simply recall it and say, well, God, it's when I'm with my kids, man, and my 4-year-old, he's got this little, habit drives me nuts. I don't know, I feel frazzled, da-da-da. Okay, step out. Okay, other questions before we begin? All right, find 2 partners, 15 minutes each, then rotate and work with people that you haven't worked with yet. Observations, experiences, glitches, roadblocks. Yes?
It was extremely difficult for me to do.
And what was it about the experience that was difficult?
I could not, first of all, I could not imagine role model because I don't guess have any much role models. And the second, I could not imagine, even if I knew somebody who would do this better than me, I could not imagine other person doing something that I did. Same situation, like substituting me with somebody else.
I'm not clear about the second part. The first part, I think I'm clear. You're saying you're not sure you could even find a model, right?
Yeah, but if I try and find a model, like I know my coworker would do it better than me in this situation, then I start imagining like a movie that my coworker is doing that.
All right.
And what happened was it was difficult for me to imagine him doing that.
Because?
Because it was my situation.
Right.
I'm a control
But
freak.
you know what?
I know.
Do you hear it? But it's my situation. I'm a control freak. You can't be doing my situation.
No, but I have to learn how to not to do
The
it.
secret of this is, Maya, it's your imagination too. Right? Do you have any control over that?
I don't know if I have a
You
good
tell me you're a control freak and yet you don't have control over your own imagination? My God, holy smokes. Sounds to me like your imagination's just kicking you around. I wouldn't let it do that, right? I'd get in there and kick some butt, right? All right.
It's difficult.
Well, all right, so there's a number of pieces to this question. The first part of this was, I'm not sure I can find a model. I'm not sure I could find the right model. An example of this in my own experience was that years ago I was working with a client who was a young boy of, I believe he was only 17, he might have been 18 years old, a new student at the University of Colorado, and he was a foreign exchange student. And I think, I'm not sure, but I believe he was from Kuwait. And he was from a very wealthy family, upper class. And so there are certain social constraints on behavior in the world, right, that were cultural. And for those of you who don't know and haven't had the joyous experience of attending the University of Colorado, in those days it was a party school, and still is, from what I hear on the news. No way. And this young man wanted to pledge a fraternity and do a lot of things and really enculturate himself and have the American experience, kind of. And the one thing he really wanted to do was ask girls out on dates, right? And he didn't know how, right? Because he'd never had the behavior, right? He'd never had the opportunity. He didn't have a lot of opportunity to socialize, to learn how to do it. So when we went for a model, it's like, couldn't come up with one, right? So we had to construct a model for him. And what I had him do, and this took a period actually of a couple of weeks, what I had him do is identify 2 or 3 of his fraternity brothers, this fraternity he was going to pledge, and for a period of time during the day when it was totally appropriate and totally socially acceptable and like that he basically shadowed them, right? Unobtrusively, particularly when they were approaching young women, like asking a girl to go have a Coke, to go to the UMC, have a cup of coffee, just talking in the quad or whatever. He'd just sort of be there, and what he's doing is kind of taking internal movies. He's watching the way they moved, he's listening to what they said, how they talked, their hand gestures, the voice tone, right? He's constructing a model, and he used 3 different guys to do this. And we had him construct a composite model. And then he came in for a session, and he was able to take these 3 models together and create kind of a composite of a model that he could see. If he could do it that way, that would be really great. And as soon as you've got a model that you, from observer position, say, yeah, boy, if I could do that, then you're home free, right? Then it's simply a question of liberating your imagination.
Did model have a face or how he looked like if he was constructed from 3 guys?
Yeah,
so you
absolutely.
got the face of one guy, hands of the other guy, and the voice of the
The
third.
one thing we need to the one thing we need to realize about our imagination is that it's not really literal.
Yeah,
It tends to be really creative, so it can whoosh, create things out of nothing. Like you could imagine, if you would, a blue parakeet right here in my finger, right?
Okay.
Yeah, see? Easy.
What is the difference between visualization and imagination?
I would say that there's very little. I mean, imagination, again, words point to experience. Visualization is something specifically you use visual representation to do. Imagination can occur in various systems. But back to our conversation here with Maya. The thing to keep in mind is that when you choose a model, you have all of human history, anyone who's ever lived, right? You have every character of every book and every movie that has ever been created, right? Every poem. And if you're telling me you can't find a model that could deal with your little situation out of the full history of mankind and all his creative endeavors, then my gosh. Is that really the case?
Well, I cannot imagine three musketeers come to my office and deal with the situation.
So then we might want to chunk it down. What qualities do the three musketeers have that would be useful in that situation?
They were brave.
Brave, okay. So name two characters, fictional characters, women that are brave. Name two brave women that you've heard about in your life.
Big woman? Oprah? Help me, guys.
Okay, Oprah Winfrey? Yeah, she's done amazing things, right? She's a pretty brave woman. Started off poor black environment, grew up to be a philanthropist. That's pretty brave.
A comedian, Ellen
DeGeneres. All right,
Yeah,
so there's
like
a couple, all right?
Yep.
All right? So that's bravery. You got models for bravery. What other quality do you need in that situation besides bravery?
Patience.
Patience. Name two people that have patience.
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa, right? Does Mother Teresa have bravery?
Yes.
All right, so she's got both of them, right? So what I'm saying is you can chunk the situation down a bit, and you can identify the resources, qualities that would be needed. And then you can identify characters or models that embody the qualities. And you can literally, it's a total workshop, it's a Disney studio in your mind. You create a composite model that could do all of this, right? You simply do it by liberating your imagination. And it's going to depend on the situation. Sometimes you're going to go, boy, I wish I was, Steven Spielberg in that situation, or I wish I was Luke Skywalker if I could only be Yoda, whatever it is. And you'll know immediately what the model is. Right? And sometimes it's going to take a little bit more work to refine it, to define just exactly the qualities and who might have them. But the point of this is, the reason that you want the model is to see a visual and hear an auditory representation of what you want to be able to do. And as soon as you have that, you simply imagine yourself doing the same physical behaviors and saying the same verbal things.
What if I know how to handle the situation?
Then see yourself do it.
That's what we did.
Great.
She couldn't come up with a model, but she said, this is how I should have handled it.
Great, and that's absolutely
I
fine.
dressed myself differently, so I could look differently.
Then there you go. So you actually solved a problem that you had me chase down the trail of.
Well, I was going to interject.
No, it was still very
Don't do that to me.
It was still very good.
That was kind of fun, though, wasn't it? It's his birthday. Yeah, well, that's it for you, Oliver. Okay, other questions or observations about this? Michelle?
Just out of curiosity, the role models that I used were all they weren't historical role models, they were very current role models, but I like the idea of using role models in the past and in the future, just outside my little realm. However, like two role models that I'm thinking of, I admire them so incredibly strongly. However, they're only, I admire the two that I'm thinking of are Martin Luther King and Lance Armstrong, and yet there's parts of them, if I admire them too much, I may fall into almost something that may not be a good, healthy role model.
Correct.
Mentality.
Right. Yes, exactly. And that's why these two steps are in this pattern. Right here. The ecology step. Because there can be a lot of different reasons that you don't feel it's ecological. Right? So you need to tune up the model. Or down here, once you step into it, it just doesn't feel right. It's sort of not you or whatever. Then you need to recycle and retune the model. And you see there may be qualities that Martin Luther King has and qualities that Armstrong has that you can kind of blend together so that they're just right for you. so that you don't take on the thing sort of full cloth. You tailor make it to your situation until you're completely satisfied with it. Right? Because when you think about it, it's really a fascinating thing. These models that we use are your creation. Is this not the case? Right? They're a part of your map. They're yours. And so the responses they elicit, the resources they elicit, the behaviors they elicit, etc., if you choose to use them, are yours. They're in you right now. We all have representations of great spiritual teachers within us. We have great learners, right? We have tremendous sports performers. We have all kinds of models inside. Romantics, poets, right? But one of the things that we've sort of been trained to do, or we just habitually have fallen into, is we've got this sense that, well, there's me, and then there's them, right? But this is happening inside your consciousness, friends. You're creating the them, and then you're putting an arbitrary little filter, or a membrane around it, saying, I can't go through there, that's them, right? Forgetting that you created it, right? And you can step into that any time you want. In fact, that's one of the ways they teach downhill skiing here in Colorado, right? There's some ski areas that have, you go up to the top, you get the basics and stuff, and then you go up to the top of the mountain or partway up, and you get out, and there's a kiosk with a video machine in it. You go in, push the play button, and what it shows is a really good skier doing the very same slope of, the section of slope that you'll be skiing next. And they've trained you in this type of pattern. And you're watching this thing, and you're going through it a couple times, and you're getting the feel in your body, you're seeing the same environment. And then you go out and you ski down just that segment, and then you go into another kiosk, tune up for the next one, right? It's a great way to learn. Sure. We've got that capacity inside, right? So suddenly, all those sort of limiting behaviors that you've felt stuck with, right? This pattern I used to refer to as the, oh my God, if I'd only pattern, right? And we all have that experience, that in the moment our resources are gone, it's too intense, we're whatever. And then 20 minutes later, we're walking back to the car and, oh my God. Right? So the resources are in there. It's simply a question of learning a new strategy, a new way of sequencing emotional states, behaviors internally and practicing it. And for those of you who had a relatively, profound or solid experience of this process, think about the problem, whatever it was that you were dealing with originally, right? Different? It's different. It's just different, right? It's simply before you were representing it in one way, and now you're representing it in a different, more creative, more resourceful way. You've changed your map of reality. This is what I was saying yesterday. One of the major, aspects of NLP is to begin to shift your own maps of reality so that they're no longer copyright 1928, and it says present day. All right. Now, we've explored two positions, right? Sort of self position and observer position. We've called these first position and also third position, yeah? What's in between 1 and 3? So there must be another one here. What do you suppose that one might be?
Another person.
The other person, right? The second position in this is called triple description. First, second, and third position. Second position is the position of the other position. I think we have just enough time today to have some direct experience of that, and I need Brent's help to explore this for a moment. But Brent, this is a no-brainer, baby. You'll love this one. Here's what's good. Well, actually, we'll just go into it. Brent, what I'd like you to do is take 2 minutes and explore the room. Just feel free to roam as you would, as if you just happened upon this room and you wanted to, explore it a bit. And that's all that you need to do. And what I'm going to be doing is walking behind you, doing basically the same thing you're doing. So just know that I'll be back there. But I want you to kind of keep moving and just let your eyes be drawn and your attention and just kind of enjoy yourself.
It's kind of hard to enjoy yourself.
It's kind of hard to enjoy yourself. Keep on, explore. All right.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good. That's cool. Absolutely. Now, let's have a little tete-a-tete here for a moment. All right. So what was I doing? Mimicking, as exactly as I was able to do. Right. My intention was to discover if my perceptions changed by walking in his moccasins, literally becoming him physiologically as much as I could. So after I had that experience, just briefly, what I am aware of, and I'll just share this with you to see if this is, if your experience is anything like this at all. A couple of things. One is I was primarily aware of sort of a kinesthetic sense in this part of my body, like from here up, that was kind of addressing the world, kind of not leaning into it, but just like really present right here in this area of my body. And not a great deal of awareness between here and down to just about here, but I was really aware of feet, where my feet were going, and the soles of my feet. I really felt that. And there was a sense of, I hate to say this, I felt taller. There was a sense of really big scan vision for most of the time, literally like, you know, like a bird's eye view. You were scanning primarily the entire group rather than focusing in on specific faces. And it was kind of orbiting visually, a visual sense, until you got over there, and then it kind of, I felt everything kind of aligned differently, just briefly. It kind of lined up, felt kind of like it came back like this, and there were a couple of quick little visual focus things like that, and then the same pattern.
Wow.
Is that anything like your experience?
Very good.
Yeah?
Very good.
Very cool. Wow.
Yeah.
It was
awesome.
Yeah, no, it was for me, it was a neat, very different from the way I move through the world. But really useful for me, just for a sense of the gestalt of the whole group. Very nice. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Excellent. Right on. Okay. So this is our task before closing today. We're going to find someone in the room. And for this one, whatever it means to you, I want you to find a person that is different from you. Right? If you're male, find a female. If you're short, find somebody tall. Right? Whatever it is. Someone that you feel is different from you. And here's the task. You have 10 minutes. And in the first 8, your task is to match them as they explore the world. So the rain has stopped. And I was sharing with Chris that for some reason, when this little part of the training is sequenced, it was actually sequenced for about an hour and a half ago, for 3 years in a row, it's rained. So I think we have just enough time and clear weather to explore outside too. So if you're the walker, what you do is you naturalistically explore the world. Sometimes people take this as permission to, you know, because they got some poor sucker back here. Try this one. No. What you want to do is literally be as much of yourself as you're capable of at this time of day. And just explore the world. You can walk around the parking lot, back here down the trails, or the area towards the trees. Just kind of explore for 8 minutes. You can stay in the room. If you meet someone and you speak to them, that's fine. If you're the walker, your task is to duplicate this as exactly as possible. Now, excuse me. If you're the one that's walking in the moccasins, if you're walking in this person's moccasins, you're modeling them. You want to become them as completely as possible. A couple of suggestions. One, what you want to do is sort of soften your visual focus, so you take in the whole body. Don't just focus on the head. It's kind of like soft eyes or peripheral vision, so you have full awareness. Usually the sense is it takes 2 or 3 minutes to kind of synchronize, but then you get into the rhythm and the flow. At some point, as I did over here along the side, you want to come up, not in front of them, but about alongside, where you can kind of keep the physiology going, but glance at their facial expressions, right? So you can mold your face to match their face, practice that a bit, and then keep moving. If they speak to someone and say, hey, how you doing? You know, you enjoying the day? You will mimic that. Hey, how you doing? You enjoying the day? It's cool. they're familiar with us up in Winter Park, so they expect this part of the training. It's all right? And you'll match them for about 8 minutes, and then for about 2 minutes, have a little recap about what your experiences were being them. Tell them how your perceptions of the world changed. You know, did you notice things you didn't notice before? Did you feel your body differently? Did your visual field expand or contract in unique ways? Did you hear sounds differently? Exactly what went on, to see if it's anything at all like their experience. All right, got the instructions? All right, 10 minutes each. Back here in 20 minutes. Roll them, roll them, roll them. All right, yesterday we had an experience of walking in another person's shoes.